In this presentation, we're going to look at some of the most fundamental bioenergetic healing principles that you can use to get you super well. Now, fundamentally, when we're looking at life is basically an energy exchange system. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, there's a few basics. So we're always exchanging oxygen, and we basically breathe in oxygen and then we breathe out carbon dioxide. That's one form of energy exchange. We also go out in sunlight, and sunlight hits us and basically is able to transform photons into a source of energy, i.e. electrons. We also eat, we also excrete, we also move, we also drink water, and we also, of course, excrete water. Now, all of these are different forms of energy exchange, and without us exchanging energy with our environment, we basically don't have life. Now, when we look at health in the context of this idea of exchanging energy, well, health therefore also must come from optimizing how we're exchanging energy from our environment. So if we're able to surround ourselves with the right energetic environment and exchange energy in the most appropriate ways, we're also able to optimize our health. And that really is what bioenergetics is all about, because bioenergetics is the study, detection, and correction of energy in living systems. Now, the Bioenergetic WellNES System and the overall study of bioenergetics basically uses 3 ways to help exchange energy with your environment. Now, the first way that you can optimize how you exchange energy with your environment is literally through changed habits. Now, this is where the Bioenergetic WellNES System is particularly powerful, because the recommendations that it gives are exactly specific to the scan results. And so what we've done is basically created a number of videos that will help clients to learn how they can optimize their exchange of energy and basically adopt healthier habits that's going to give them a massive impact on their health. Because as people start to adopt healthier habits, they also start to restore their health, and of course they feel much better too. Now, the second way that we're able to optimize the way clients are able to exchange energy with their environment is through the use of Infoceuticals. Now, of course, everyone really gets very excited about Infoceuticals, because when we're looking at our overall body field theory, what we're truly looking at is a cellular communication network, of which if we provide the optimal information, or if you like, the optimal blueprint for how particular cells are working, i.e. the blueprint for kidney or the blueprint for liver, we can basically provide that information to the body field. The cells pick up that information, and then they start to restore or go back towards that particular type of functioning. Now, the third way is through using the miHealth. And the miHealth is also particularly powerful at helping to release and unblock any energy blockages. So for instance, if we're looking at my arm here, let's say we have some scar tissue or some pain here, and it's and the chi or the energy is not running very smoothly down my arm, we would basically get the miHealth, place it on that particular spot, start easing it out, and you can start to notice, as you start to know how to use the miHealth, that the miHealth will basically be able to run more easily over that area as the energy starts to get to release. And as soon as you start having proper energy flow right across the body, it's also pretty incredible how the body's own healing mechanisms start to work properly. Because again, what we're trying to do is optimize how energy is exchanging both within the body. We're also trying to optimize how information is being communicated within the body. And as we mentioned at the beginning, we're also optimizing through habits how energy is exchanging with our environment. Now, if you do all 3, the body's own healing mechanisms are going to be given the best possible chance at helping you to restore your health. Now, fortunately, the body is holographic, which all that really means is that it's interconnected. And because it's interconnected, all 3 ways will actually work independently. But of course, if we use all 3, we're going to get the most powerful results. Now, although the miHealth and Infoceuticals are able to create immediate responses, in the end, in the long term, to create long-lasting transformation, you also need to adopt healthier habits. So please don't see the Infoceuticals and miHealth as some sort of miracle magic pill or magic bullet. Now let's just have a look at some of the macro ways that we exchange energy environment. Now, as we've mentioned before, we basically exchange oxygen, water, light, nutrients, and electrons. And often in the health field, especially the biohacking type world, we think, well, we need to exchange as much as possible. Now, that isn't true. There's basically an optimal amount, not just a maximum amount. So for instance, if we're looking at oxygen, well, yes, it's great to go and use a hyperbaric chamber where you're breathing in 100% oxygen under pressure for an hour and a half or maybe up to 2 hours. It's not optimal to go and live in 100% oxygen because your body is just going to become weak. Likely it's also too toxic. So, that's one example where you really want optimal, not maximal. Same with water. Your kidneys can only cope with a certain amount of water all day. You're not going to want to stress out your kidneys by drinking vast amounts of water. The same is true with sunlight or light. A certain amount of sunlight is super healthy, but you don't necessarily want to go out in the really hot, bright sunshine for hours each day, so your skin ends up blistering and inflamed and red. And absolutely the same applies with eating. You can have the best green juices and smoothies in the world, but equally, of course, you really do not want to be overeating, because overeating is one of the surest ways to diabetes and sugar regulation problems and cardiovascular problems. Now, the second part of this idea of optimal variance is literally in the word variance. So the body actually loves variety, and one very easy way of seeing that is through our circadian rhythms. Part of the day we like to be awake, part of the day we like to be asleep. Or if we're training, the body part of the time likes to stress the body with exercise, and then part of the time we need to nurture our body and rest. And so really, to be able to optimize our health, we basically need to introduce a lot of variance. So some stress, some nurture, some awake time, some sleep time, sometimes perhaps too much oxygen, sometimes perhaps too less oxygen, sometimes perhaps a little bit too much water, sometimes a little bit dehydrated. But this idea of variance will basically help the body to increase its flexibility of how it can handle different circumstances in the environment. And the more you're able to increase the flexibility that your body can handle within the environment, the more often you're going to feel well in more circumstances. Now, with this idea of variance, we also come across what is too much stress and what is too little stress. Now, often when people are ill, they actually expose themselves to too little stress. Now, one of the things that happened when I had chronic fatigue is I didn't stress my body enough. Now, what I mean by that is I didn't actually exercise my body enough. So at that time, my body ended up becoming weaker and weaker till I ended up bedridden for a number of years. Whereas even though I didn't have any energy at that time, if I'd actually exercised a bit more, stressed my body a bit more while providing the nurture, I most likely would have had a much shorter period of having chronic fatigue. Now, of course, you can also expose your body to too much stress if you're constantly exercising and overdoing it without giving yourself enough rest. The body ends up breaking down to such a point where you start getting more and more exhausted. And of course, really the optimal here again is in that concept of variance. We want to stress the body a bit, we want to nurture the body a bit, and ultimately the more nurture that we can provide the body, so the more things like miHealth treatments, the more meditation, rest, massage, really healthy food, all of these nurturing types of activity, the more stress our body can actually handle and then adapt to. So ultimately what we're really trying to do is increase the nurture and increase the stress, so our body becomes more adaptable and has more flexibility in how it can interact with our environment. Because if it's able to interact with the environment in a broader way, then again, we become healthier in more and more circumstances, which is ultimately what we all want out of our lives. So when we're looking at health and healing overall, really we can just divide it into two parts. So number one, we have the body field, which is basically acting as an overall control system, and the body field is much more fluid. It's able to respond pretty quickly to miHealth treatments and also to Infoceuticals. And then we have the actual physical body, i.e. the deeper level structures, all of the organ systems, bones, muscles, etc. Now, fortunately, the body field is affected first, and so in the majority of cases, when we're feeling unwell, that is basically due to distortions in the body field, and therefore simply through correcting the cellular information, through using Infoceuticals, through using things like the miHealth, we're able to correct the body's control system, i.e. the body field, and we're able to make people feel much better in a pretty rapid fashion. Now, secondary to that, as is the case in serious diseases, much deeper, more structural changes can actually occur in the body. And when we're actually looking at physical changes in the body, that's going to require a much more significant exchange of energy with the broader environment, because we need to get more nutrients in, more resources into the body, we need to excrete more toxins, and we actually have to deeply structurally change more things in the body. And that requires a much more deeper commitment to changes in habits to be able to optimize how that person is exchanging energy with their environment. Now, one of the most fundamental bioenergetic principles is the second law of thermodynamics, which is basically looking at entropy. Now, life is basically always trying to find the lowest energy state of functioning. So when we apply that idea to the body field, the body field is basically exchanging energy within itself. It's always trying to be cohesive. It's trying to be in the most efficient state as it can. But of course, as some of these structural changes may start to occur, it starts to distort the body field. It starts to make energy exchange more inefficient. Now, when the body field starts to become more inefficient, what is actually happening when the body field is distorted? What it's actually doing is the body ends up consuming far more energy than it truly needs to operate. And if it's consuming more energy, it basically starts to make you feel really tired. Things don't start to work as well as they should do because the body field has become more inefficient. So our job in bioenergetics is to help the body field become much more efficient, so that we're able to use way less energy, so that we therefore have energy on reserve for when we need it. Now, when you think about it, this idea that energy is meant to be as efficient as possible in the body really helps to explain that naturopathic idea of a retracing disease, or sometimes it's called Herring's law of cure. It's also there in some of the homeopathic ideas. It's basically saying, as you're able to optimize the exchange of energy with the environment, as you're able to detox, you start retracing to these previous states of the disease. That's because the body field is going from one particular state to a more efficient state, and then a more efficient state again. And as it progresses towards these more efficient states, that's basically the same as retracing previous diseases.